Welcome back to Turkish series stars, the place where we hush the chatter and linger on the moments that actually say something. Before we slip into today's slow burn story, tap subscribe, give this video a like, and if you want to help our small team keep going, consider hitting join to support what we do. Now, settle in, because the quietest moment of the week might just be the one that speaks the loudest. There are celebrity outings choreographed within an inch of their lives, all sparkle and pose, with flashbulbs rehearsed and headlines pre-written. And then there are days like the one Alina and Alp Navras shared, where the glow doesn't come from cameras or carpets but from the simple way two people move through a day without needing to prove a point. Their afternoon didn't look like a production, it felt like a pause, and that was the charm. They stepped out from a hidden residence layered in trees and shade, a home chosen not to impress an address book but to make life softer. No stylists chased after them, no handler shuffled schedules, no vanity parade, just two familiar figures flowing into the day with a kind of ease that comes from not having anything to sell. Alina crossed the threshold first with that delicate confidence she's known for, wearing a textured jacket over a barely there tee, white sneakers that seemed newly tender to the pavement, and accessories that preferred to murmur instead of perform. Dark sunglasses framed her expression, less a billboard, more a refuge. She didn't look like she had dressed for a lens, she looked like she had dressed for comfort and calm. Alp matched her pace with an unforced symmetry, not copying her but syncing with her. An open-collar shirt, denim that fit like a memory, and a watch that felt intentional rather than loud. There was nothing arranged and yet everything belonged. Even their silhouettes seemed to agree with each other. Fashion speaks clearest when it isn't trying, and their clothes were a fluent pair of sentences in the same language. They slid into a car that didn't beg to be noticed. No glossy trophy, no statement on wheels. It looked like something built to soften edges and hold a conversation without interruption. The kind of car where the city blurs into a watercolor and the people inside can breathe. Fame usually announces itself with brass. This car was a string quartet. You don't need to be seen, it seemed to say, to feel real. People close to them suggested that this little escape was not just a break from relentless call sheets and meetings. It was a choice to step out of the echo and back into themselves. Not a day for makeup chairs or planned posts or immaculate overhead lighting. Just a small stretch of hours dedicated to being unremarkable. And the funny thing about seeking the ordinary is that it can turn out to be the most surprising part of all. Sometimes the brightness returns when the spotlight switches off. They drove through Istanbul with the kind of quiet that has texture. Sunlight stuttered across buildings, dazzled on the Bosphorus, and slipped in slivers through the windows. Water flashed and rippled, then dashed away. Inside the car, there was laughter, soft, conspiratorial, the kind that lives in private corners and grows from jokes made over months, not minutes. A camera caught a sliver through the reflection on the glass, Alina's laugh, completely unposed, a smile that arrived without permission. Beside her, Alp leaned in, speaking something meant only for her. The world outside might have been roaring, inside that car, the volume was low and warm. People watching clips as they trickled online said the same thing again and again. This felt like a moment we weren't meant to see, and that's why it mattered. It wasn't a declaration, not a staged proclamation or a choreographed reveal. It was simple affection doing what it does, existing, unadvertised. Which kind of couple wins your heart? Those who share loudly, or those who let you catch the story in gestures and glances? Tell us in the comments. And while you're here, give the like button a gentle tap so more people can find these intimate stories on Turkish series stars. Midway into their route, they eased into a spot near a cafe known not for who posts from its patio, but for how time slows at its corner tables. No manager ran ahead. No velvet rope. They walked through the door with genuine hellos that felt learned by habit, not by script. No entourage hovered. No cameras inside were bribed into warmth. They were simply guests in a room, sharing air with everyone else without demanding any exceptions. Then came the scene fans played over and over. A breeze slid in and lifted the edge of Alina's jacket. Alp noticed, reached up, and straightened the collar with a touch so light it could have been mistaken for a whisper. It wasn't a moment you arrange, it was the kind that slips past unless you happen to care. Tiny, thoughtful, easy to miss, and precisely for that reason, unforgettable. A small kindness can be more romantic than a rose-covered display. They took a brief pause at a table near the window, neither hurrying through it nor stretching it for attention. They didn't sit like people barricading themselves against the world, they sat like part of it. The room carried on, cups clicked on saucers. Conversations drifted. They stayed long enough to breathe. Because of who they are, that ordinary pause turned into something people couldn't stop talking about. Later, back on the road, a red light gathered them with the rest of the city. Phones lifted at the corners, sparks of flash pressed against the glass like impatient stars. The public pressed close to their private quiet, and for a second you could almost feel the shift in air. But instead of freezing or folding, they offered a gentle boundary. Alina's smile was soft, appreciative, held at just the right distance. Alp added a relaxed nod that acknowledged the moment without surrendering their afternoon to it. That is a skill learned over time, to be gracious without being consumed. The light changed, and the car drifted onward, returning to movement as if the pause had been part of the plan. The rest of the drive picked up its earlier calm. The city continued to be the city, and inside the cabin there was still that low hum of two people sharing the same space comfortably. As the day thinned and the sun began to dim, they found their way back to that leafy street. The light softened into a color that makes thoughts stretch and conversations linger. Before opening the doors, they sat just a few seconds longer, the car holding a final pocket of hush. It felt like the last page of a chapter read slowly, the kind you turn carefully because you don't want to crease it. Then the doors opened, and the quiet folded back into the world. What people admired wasn't an outfit or a car model or a headline-ready pose. It was the way they occupied a day, unhurried, attentive, trusting. The whole outing, simple as it looked, felt like a statement without words. Some connections don't need a stage to shine. They do not need an orchestra to make music. Think about the day in pieces. A collar straightened without ceremony. A laugh that escaped in a reflection. A moment of stillness before stepping into the evening. None of it announced itself, none of it begged for an audience. These gestures move quietly, but they leave echoes. If watching Alina Boz and Alp Navras in this gentler frame made you feel something, let us know below. What tells you a relationship is the real thing? Is it the declarations, or the details? Do you think public figures owe the world pieces of their private selves, or is restraint a form of grace? Subscribe to keep these slower stories in your feed, like the video if this softer pace appeals to you, and if Turkish series stars is a corner of the internet you want to keep alive, press join to support our growing community. Until we meet again, stay curious, stay attentive, and remember, the best stories aren't always the loud ones. Sometimes they whisper, and if you listen closely, they'll tell you everything you need to know. Let's return to the beginning and read the day like a script you almost miss on first watch. They didn't perform together, they existed together. The radius of their calm extended from the shaded doorstep to the steady lanes of the city, across a cafe table, through a red light, and back home again. Every transition held its own rhythm, and that rhythm was theirs. This wasn't a campaign. It wasn't a preview for something to sell later. It was a day that refused to pose, and because of that, we're still thinking about it now. Inside the car, their silence had layers, the kind of silence full of contentment, the sort that lets you hear your own thoughts while trusting someone else is thinking alongside you. When Alina turned her face to the window and smiled, it didn't look like she remembered a camera, it looked like she remembered a feeling. When Alp leaned in, it wasn't to create a scene, it was to make sure the moment landed where it belonged. They didn't dramatize, they edited. They kept in what mattered and cut what didn't. Even the cafe told a story about them. They could have chosen a place where names are currency, where being seen counts as capital. Instead, they went somewhere that knows the life cycle of a good conversation. They ordered without fuss. The clink of a spoon was an event. The shade on the window turned into a curtain, and for a little while, they were simply two people in the same small theater. A breeze moved, Alp noticed, Alina's collar found its line again. That is how you see care, small adjustments that say, I am paying attention. And when the city demanded acknowledgement at that red light, they didn't bristle. They offered what they could with gratitude held at arm's length, and they kept their afternoon intact. Fame has rules. The trick is learning to shape them without breaking yourself against them. They know this dance by now. A smile. A nod. Forward. The day ended where it began, but not in the same way. That's the secret of a good day. You return to the starting point changed by the quiet things you noticed along the way. The leafy street received them again, and the car became, for a handful of seconds, a coda. Then they stepped back into the green hush, two figures who had managed to live a day without turning it into a spectacle, and somehow, that made it luminous. So, what did we witness? Not a plot twist. Not a reveal. We watched the steady work of affection, the untweeted version of romance. A jacket set right. A laugh caught in glass. A breath shared before the door opens. That's the story. And if you're listening the way we are here at Turkish Series Stars, you know it's worth more than any headline. Tell us what you think below. What small gesture convinced you of a love story you didn't expect to believe? Should celebrities put their softer moments on display, or is holding them close the wiser choice? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and, if you want to keep these thoughtful angles coming, press join to support Turkish Series Stars. Until next time, keep your eyes open for the scenes that whisper.